Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. It is a Friday night. I wouldn't say Friday night pint yet, Larry. We're not back at the pub, but we are a few days closer to this so-called freedom, and I don't know what date it's supposed to happen, but we are getting closer to the pub, that's for sure.
Well, aren't we allowed to be in the pub now?
I'm not double vaccinated. Mine's been pushed back. All teachers have been pushed back weeks and weeks and weeks. Mine's not till Wednesday, so on Wednesday I'm allowed back. But yeah, I'm in the not free category at the moment, but I know you are free.
I am free indeed. You know what? We're free. I went and got my Thai food. Restaurant was packed full of people. I went and got my takeaway, came straight back home.
Well, I think that's the thing. I've been doing sort of constantly running and walking sort of around the suburbs sort of thing like every day. And throughout the middle of lockdown, everyone's out. Everyone's out walking, running, keeping fit. Now it was suddenly got freedom. Everyone's back inside. They say, no time for exercise anymore.
Yeah.
But hopefully everyone is enjoying, whether in Sydney or elsewhere, a little bit of freedom. And obviously the international break is over. United are back. If you're watching on delay, just remember if you're experiencing any buffering issues, just pause the video, go grab a beer or something from the fridge, let it sort of pause for 2 minutes, let it load in advance, then come back, press play, and there should be no issues. But if you are joining live, make sure you get in the comments and share your opinions ahead of it's a big game against Leicester City. Leicester, obviously, well, we look at it now and God, they've won the Premier League far more recently than United. But not only that, but you do look at the league position, the upcoming fixture is very important. Good to see Rob here. Evening, lads. Good to see Tom back. It is very good to be back. Thank you for Antonio filling in for me midweek. But Larry, we'll start on. I don't know what to make of this story. Look, it's in the title. No Fred. At the moment, there's no Fred, and I'm sure at the time of recording, Solskjaer's press conference is usually in about 2 hours from now. So Solskjaer might speak, and this whole sort of topic will just become a moot point. But I want your opinion on it.
I think his press conference will be in 1 hour, won't it? Because our clocks went forward.
That is a point. Yeah, I forgot our clocks changed. It has been a long international break, Larry. Please forgive me. But yeah, Solskjaer is about to speak. So I'm sure there will be an answer on this Fred situation. But I'll just touch on it because when the story came out, it's not just Fred. It's about the way the story was sort of came about was the Premier League clubs and their South American players. So you had Manchester City and their Brazilian players. You had Liverpool, their Brazilian players, etc. We have Cavani and Fred. And there was a story that saying that, okay, the Premier League or those clubs are going to charter a flight back to South America. Now, from the Liverpool side of things, what I've heard, it's actually going to be stopping in Spain, a quarantine issue or something, or Liverpool's next game is in Spain. I think their next Champions League game. But regardless of that, when I first saw the story, I said, I don't believe it. Now, it could be true. Solskjaer will give us a clearer answer on it. But I just thought it was a story where how can you rile Man United fans up and get them to click on an article? You can just tell the public that the manager, who everyone suddenly hates at the moment, is rushing their worst player back to play in this game against Leicester City where everyone thought he wasn't going to be playing. So I thought it was an absolute nonsense story. However, it never really went away. So just your thoughts on the issue with supposedly trying to rush Fred back across the world a day after he's played a game for Brazil.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this one. Look, at the end of the day, irrespective of what you think of Fred, if a club wants to pull out all the stops to ensure that they have the best chance of winning on the weekend, then power to him. Now, again, like I said, whether you think Fred is a player worth making United better or not is a debate for another day. But yeah, so I've got no issues with it. If the club wants to do that, power to him. But look, mate, personally, I hope it's not true. I think Fred deserves a well-earned break. Let's give someone else a go, eh?
Also, Rob's saying here the press is not for a few hours Australian time. I definitely won't be staying up for that. But you say that, and I look at it from your point of view, and yeah, from a club point of view in terms of backing their player and doing the right thing by them, yeah, I agree with that sentiment. However, from a management point of view and Solskjaer, I would really question him. I don't think this will happen. I don't think Fred will be in the country. I don't think he'll play. But let's just play devil's advocate. If this was the case and he was rushed back a day after he played for Brazil to play against Leicester on the other side of the world, if Solskjaer actually did that and played him ahead of, let's say, even some players who are on international break, whether it be Paul Pogba, Forza Sim out of the middle, or obviously the two candidates who everyone would be talking about, Nemanja Matic and Donny van der Beek, if that actually happened, I'm not going to sit here and say I'll be Ollie out or in that camp. I would maybe go very close to it. I think that would be one of the worst managerial decisions Solskjaer could ever make in terms of not only playing your worst player. I think most people would have him as our worst player. I think that's fair. I don't want to sound harsh, but I think most people would have. Maybe if Dan James is still in the squad, some people would maybe lean towards Dan James. But at the moment, I think it's fair to say Fred is probably our worst player. to rush him back. Look, it's every game is a must-win game, but in that scenario, I think that would be absolutely criminal by Solskjaer, and it might be a final straw for me. And I'm nowhere near a final straw, but yeah, I just can't see this happening. But although Fred did create an assist for Brazil, and suddenly it's Solskjaer's fault, we're not getting the best out of Fred. He's a more advanced midfielder, apparently.
We've got a modern day Ronaldinho in our hands. It's just simply about unlocking Fred. And that's it. And do you remember that video? I can't remember what. I remember someone wrote something about unlocking Fred, and I just went on about it for the rest of the episode. You just need to unlock Fred, Tom. That's the key to United success. Why are we stressing about fitting Paul Pogba into the midfield? Unlock Fred.
Yeah, I don't know what this issue has been about unlocking Pogba. Well, look, Fred he should be a good footballer. He's Brazilian. He looks like he's got fantastic technique. I just don't know what's gone wrong. But we will move a little bit further back on the pitch, and what definitely is going wrong at the moment is our back four. And through no fault, well, we haven't been defending fantastically, but this issue isn't through anyone's fault, just unfortunate injuries in terms of Harry Maguire's out for a few weeks. And it does look, unfortunately, like Rafael Varane is going to be out for a couple of games as well. International break, best player gets injured. Welcome to Manchester United, Rafael. But on that, is it a crisis? Obviously, Varane's been playing very well. Harry Maguire hasn't. Lindelof's been okay. Do you see a straight swap now? Not a straight swap, but just a like-for-like sort of substitution now where Lindelof and Bailly play? Or could you see a situation where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sees this as an away game against a big team? Okay, Leicester's maybe don't have the success, but they're a Premier League winning team in recent seasons. It's a big game. Could he maybe revert to a back three, back five, however you look at it?
Nah, he'll go with four at the back. And you know what? I think it'll definitely be a Lindelof Bailly partnership, and I think that would be a good partnership. I'm excited by it, Tom. To be honest, it's good to know centre back is where we are definitely well stocked. I think you can be critical of Solskjaer's rotation, midfield and attacking options, particularly looking at that Everton game. But I think defense, no matter what, you can definitely say we got quality there. And if Lindelof and Bailly are your backups, I think you're in a good place. So no, I'm excited. I'm keen to see Bailly, keen to see how he gets on. And he always has a good game against Leicester, so I think it'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, actually, I just want to come to that point. You mentioned about Eric Bailly, but Lee, one of our followers over from England, good morning, mate, where you are. Obviously, evening our time, taking Fred out of the spotlight could do him a favour. Like you said, needs a break. And yeah, as much as we're harsh on Fred, yeah, this might be a good thing. Yeah, obviously, he played well for Brazil, so fair play to him. Hopefully that gives him some confidence. But rushing him back would just be an absolute nightmare. But Ryan as well saying must-win game, definitely in this case, especially when you look at the fixtures ahead. But we have tough games coming up. We need to start picking up 3 points and carrying some momentum for Liverpool, City and Spurs, etc. And rocks or diamonds with Eric Bailly. And just on Bailly in regards to, I think it's one of everyone has sort of standout images they think of when a play comes to mind. And when someone mentions Eric Bailly, just one of the things you always see a photo or a little sort of video you see on Twitter always pop up is that little battle he had on, not a battle, just one instant with Jamie Vardy on the sideline in the game. Man, I think it was obviously Jose Mourinho's first season when Eric Bailly came in. And he is that type of player against Jamie Vardy who was a threat. He's a player, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Eric Bailly, he does suit Jamie Vardy. I think it's a good matchup. Now, Jamie Vardy will obviously try and pin himself to Victor Lindelof. It'll be interesting how the back four work that out. But it is that game where you are going to miss Rafael Varane and Harry Maguire. But it's maybe the game, if you're going to play Eric Bailly at some stage, this is probably a game that probably does suit him.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, he does play well against Leicester. But you're utilizing his attributes. He's quick, he's physical, and that's where he'll be strong against Jamie Vardy, who likes to get in behind. But you know what? How old is Jamie Vardy? Look, from what I've seen of him, not as sharp as he used to be.
I was thinking that, and I was having a discussion. I was thinking I didn't put him in the Harry Kane category, but we're discussing it with a mate, and it's why he's not in the England team now. Because I think Jamie Vardy, for what he was when he sort of burst onto the Premier League scene, he was quite an experienced footballer then. His game was running in behind. His game was hard work, tackling, just being a mongrel type thing. Well, now maybe he has lost that. We've used this term before. We don't really like it, but maybe he's gotten to that age or stage of his career where he's maybe lost a yard of pace or two. And he's now suddenly becoming a bit of a footballer. And that's fantastic. But he's not someone who's going to break into the England team. He doesn't have that something special about him anymore. He's very good, but he's becoming a bit more all-rounded now and maybe taken away from what made him so good. That's no criticism of him. He has to develop as a player. But, yeah, I don't see him as that. He is obviously going to try and get him behind, but he's not someone who's really going to really hurt you getting in behind sort of 90 minutes a game, turning your defenders around. So it is interesting to see how he has developed. But I think he's up there in terms of the goals scored this season. I think he's got 5 or 6 goals. So look, fair play to him. And look, if there's anyone who's going to do a Ronaldo celebration against Man United, it's Jamie Vardy. So I'm fully expecting us to go 1-0 down. I'm confident of the win. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to Jamie Vardy. But Mike's saying, which is a fair point, wish we could have kept Tuanzebe. Sorry if my spelling is wrong. I think you've nailed that, Mike. Over Bay. And yeah, look, well, at the end of the day, we still had Tuanzebe on the books. Yeah, I would have much preferred him over Eric Bailly, but Axel Tuanzebe, from what I know, is playing at Aston Villa. Maybe I should have done my research a little bit more, but I think he is playing a few games.
But he's basically he's back up at the moment. He's not starting a lot of games.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting, but yeah, I think there will be a decision to be made at the end of the season in regards to Eric Bailly and Axel Tuanzebe, but Ryan as well agreed. It's an unfortunate. Everyone envisages this one already in regards to Jamie Vardy scoring, unfortunately. But fingers crossed I'm wrong. I've been wrong about plenty this season so far. Now, the first time we can discuss this person, Larry, Marcus Rashford. He's a Manchester United player. We haven't discussed him in terms of football this season.
He is.
He obviously he played a behind closed doors friendly against Blackburn and reportedly scored 2 goals. So you assume if he scored 2 goals, you assume he played well and looked the part. So can you see a situation where Solskjaer starts him, or it's one where we're sort of going to sort of bet him in slowly?
I think he'll come off the bench. I said to you before we recorded, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, but I think he'll come off the bench. Just simply because you don't need to rush. You don't need to rush him in. I think attacking wise, we've got the caliber of player there. So I think, if you're talking about a starting 11, could very much see it'll be Ronaldo up front. I think Solskjaer's learned his lessons from that one. And I think you'll see Mason Greenwood on the right and Sancho on the left.
Do you think it's a case of that? Which I would maybe, and look, I've been quite critical of Marcus Rashford in recent years, and I'm saying, yes, I don't agree with rushing him back, and I wouldn't rush him back, but I do look at it and maybe think, well, maybe he's maybe a bit more dangerous off the left in terms of Leicester will have a go. I don't think Leicester are going to park the bus. I haven't seen too much from this season, but I assume they will try and get a United sort of makeshift back 4. And I just think Marcus Rashford off the left, I think is sort of maybe well suited to this game. And I think Mason Greenwood has been playing very well this season. But we've had this discussion about him on the right and sort of how he affects the balance. Now, how we line up in midfield is another debate. But I would maybe it sounds wrong now that I'm saying this out loud, but I'll be going Rashford off the left, obviously Ronaldo and Jadon Sancho on the right. But how do you see that in terms of the dynamic between Sancho and Greenwood on the right-hand side? Who's Solskjaer almost favouring if Rashford is fit on the left? Who's Solskjaer at the moment sort of going for in terms of Greenwood and Sancho?
I would love to see him start Rashford on the left and put Sancho on the right. I just don't think he will. And that's not because of any reason. I just think Rashford doesn't have a lot of football behind him. That's all. But look, I could be wrong. And if he starts with Sancho on the right, which we've all been crying out for and we all want to see it, I would really support that. And I agree with you. I think it is definitely a good game for Rashford to get his start, get some fitness under his belt. Maybe he starts Rashford, but he just doesn't put in the 90. You got to go with your best 11, as Neville and as Scholes have said in recent weeks. So I would support it. It's not a time for United to be rotating. I think you got to go out with your stronger side. I'd love to see a Rashford Sancho on either flank.
Well, Rob agrees that he thinks Rashford should be starting and also says Sancho needs to play on the right, which I think everyone wants to see. Ryan saying as well, agree, lads, Rash, Bruno, Sancho. Look, we haven't even touched on Bruno Fernandes. I think he actually played quite well from Portugal from all reports. And Ronaldo scored a hat-trick, obviously, against the European powerhouse of Luxembourg. Ronaldo loves an international, I don't know if it's a friendly or a World Cup qualifier, but he does love a couple of goals in the international break. And Ahmad handing in a late note, sorry, gents, and good evening. Yeah, you missed a good Fred discussion. We're trying to get sort of Fred back into the starting lineup, Ahmad. But Larry, anything else before we sort of touch on Leicester? Because I haven't got the notes in front of me in regards to Leicester's ins and outs. But we're talking about a few injuries and a few people sort of missing in terms of Fred, Maguire, Varane. Leicester have a few out. I think Fofana, who's obviously got rave reviews from Leicester, plays at the back for them. I think Johnny Evans is out. But the main one, obviously maybe not Jamie Vardy, but maybe their main player, and especially in relation to Man United, a lot of people do want him in Wilfred Ndidi. It'd be a bit of a big miss. I assume he is out from what I've read, but your thoughts if he is out?
Massive advantage for United. You can't replace a player like that. And he walks in, you know what, we've had this debate around, you could look at around the Premier League and you can debate which midfielders probably walk into United's. And some people, overbeat that drum. But in saying that, Leicester's midfield would walk into United's. Tielemans is a class player, a really good player. I think most United fans would take him. Absolutely, he's the Belgian. He's phenomenal, and definitely if Wilfred Ndidi's out, it just means that layer of security is gone, and it'll give space to the likes of Rashford, Sancho to get in behind. So it's a really exciting prospect. Look, we do have a good record against Leicester. I think that is worth saying and worth highlighting. I don't remember the last time we lost to Leicester.
I think they're that one team. They always feel like a bogey team, but if you actually look back, we do have a good record against them. I think we obviously remember the Louis van Gaal, the 5-3, but after that, I think we have a decent little record against Leicester. But they do, I don't know if it's just Jamie Vardy and the way he plays, it does feel like a bogey team, especially away at Leicester. But we do usually do quite good at them. But you just mentioned the Leicester midfield, and before we wrap up, just I don't know why I'm bringing Newcastle into this, but they are obviously a hot topic at the moment. You do look at those Leicester names, and do you think a lot of them, in terms of that midfield, we're saying, okay, they'd walk into Man United's midfield? Do you think you're almost looking at a very big chunk of Newcastle's next team? You're looking at James Maddison, you're looking at your Tielemans and Ndidi. They're all tied to that type of profile. Do you think, could go to Newcastle and got the Premier League experience? They've also got room to grow in their game. They're almost perfect signings for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think when you're thinking of Newcastle United and the type of recruitment they'll go for, it'll be that ilk that's below the elite. Just that where they are at this point in time. You could see the likes of Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard. You could see those sorts of players. Yeah, James Maddison's a really good shout. Yeah, you're definitely not wrong there. And that's the thing. It's going to get interesting. The Premier League is going to be really interesting to watch. And as recently as January, really, I think Newcastle will look to make a statement fairly quickly. Is Brucey still in a job?
You just mentioned Steve Bruce. That was my next point. We just mentioned the players, and from a report that I read, he sort of ruled himself out. But you almost tie the managerial part into that as well and say Brendan Rodgers is an ideal manager for Newcastle. Now, I think some reports said he's maybe a little bit hesitant in taking that, sort of holding out for sort of a bigger job in 1 or 2 years' time when a manager leaves one of the big clubs. But we've both spoken on the podcast before about sort of admiring Brendan Rodgers, and if the situation came where Solskjaer was to leave, would consider Brendan Rodgers. Could he be almost ideal for Newcastle at this stage?
He definitely could. Look, selfishly, because I want to have my cake and eat it too. Look, I'm obviously hoping it works out with Solskjaer, but if not, Tom, I think Brendan Rodgers should be the top of United's wish list. I really do. I really rate him as a manager, and I think what he's done with that Leicester side, it's a good team. Don't get me wrong, it is a good team. But even though they've been in the Champions League and fallen away, I think with an elite group of players, I think Rodgers well outachieves that. I really think he's a good manager. So United should be having him on a short list.
I think what Rodgers has done well, because we think of Leicester, and obviously he's got his first game back in the Premier League this week in Ranieri, but we think of Leicester and we think of that Premier League win in Ranieri. It's very easy to think, okay, everyone's thinking, okay, Rodgers has done a good job. What's he done? Well, he won the FA Cup, okay, and that is a stick we use to beat Solskjaer with. He hasn't won a trophy. Well, Brendan Rodgers went and beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final with the Leicester squad, so he has that winning ability, which that's not to say Solskjaer doesn't have, but he has proved himself to go and win things with an inferior squad. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Obviously, that stems from the Steve Bruce situation, which I'm shocked he's still in a job. Well, I'm glad because I like Steve Bruce, but I thought the day after the Saudi Arabians bought the club, I thought he'd be out of a job the next day. But we'll just wrap up with 1 or 2 comments. Ahmad saying we'd love to have Fofana, United from Leicester. And yeah, I haven't seen too much of him, but a lot of people do rave about him. So and he obviously has
aggressive,
improved Leicester. So Ryan as well. United will win, but will concede 100%, which I probably agree. Question: do we let Martial go to Newcastle in January? Newcastle will be desperate to get players in and pay over the odds for them. Martial will be one we can cash in on. And Larry, I'll just throw that to you because obviously the Anthony Martial sort of side of things. But the way I look at it, and you have to take every case sort of individually, I don't like to sell players in January. I think it's only a situation where you want to be strengthening. And whether you think Anthony Martial is the worst player in the world, if you sell someone, you're weakening your squad, because there could be a situation where, okay, you sell Martial, no matter what you think of him, Rashford, Sancho, Greenwood, they all get injured. You need a left winger. You need an attacking player. Suddenly you're going into the 23s and you're not as strong. So I'm never a fan of selling players in January. I don't think it's a time for a big club to be bringing players in. However, it is an interesting situation with Martial. And maybe do you think from a business side of things, if Newcastle are a little bit desperate, it is something you would consider financially?
I'm a Martial fan, mate. You know that. And I thought I actually thought he showed when you give him space and you let him play on the left where he should be. I think he can be dangerous, and I think he can add a lot to the United side. I don't like Sancho on the left. I've said this countless times since he's made appearances there. I know he can play both sides, and he's done so for Borussia Dortmund. But if you're looking at Rashford being first choice, which he should be, Martial should be second choice. I think that's an obvious one. They're like for like in terms of what they offer to a side. Rashford may be a bit more direct than Martial, but he's second choice. And I agree with you. I think if you're not going to strengthen the side, don't weaken your side. We're clearly, as you've seen from our favorable opening draw, our opening fixture list, we still haven't managed to get the wins on the board. United are not in a position to be letting players go.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. And Lee here is saying Red Newcastle looking to spend around 200 million in January, which, look, I can't see a situation where that happens. However, they will make a statement, and it's not going to be, I can't say 200 million. Let's say in the first summer transfer window, you could see him spending 200 million. It won't be 150 million on a player and 50 million on a player. I think it'll be a bunch of 25, 30 million pound signings. So I can't see them getting, as we've discussed, that top bracket of player just yet, but they will definitely try and make a statement in January, whether that be managerial or one or two big names in the Premier League. I think Raheem Sterling is the one to watch out for. I think he's just done an article where he's maybe looking at a potential exit. And look, we've seen this before. We've seen it with Manchester City in 08. We've seen it with Chelsea in 04. Players will go for the money. And who we criticise, I'd go for the money as well. But players will go. So I think they might shock a few people thinking, why is that player leaving a Champions League club to go to Newcastle? But players will go. And you can't be, we'll sort of throw a little bit of banter out there and say they're only going for the money, but sort of who are we to hate on them for doing so? But it's been a long international break, Larry, but United are back in action, only one sleep.
Yeah, excited. 1 a.m. kickoff here. So who's winning, Tom?
Yeah, we'll finish with your prediction. This frightens me how confident I am, but I am quietly confident, and I'm definitely not clean sheet. I've written off the Jamie Vardy's going to score. I've accepted that. Jamie Vardy will put them up inside the first 10 minutes. I can just imagine the reaction on Twitter and social media, so I'm fully prepared for that. But I'm confident we're going to get back into it. And look, I've said this before, and there's games that he hasn't scored, obviously. You look at the last two games. But with Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch, especially if Leicester, with the matters said here that Fofana is out, so obviously a key defender for them being out, you can see Ronaldo scoring. And I've said that before and he hasn't, but I'm quite confident that he will. And Didi, so Bruno Fernandes is in good form. In terms, you should assume Paul Pogba walks back in a team after his performances for France.
We haven't discussed midfield. So what are you doing? Obviously, none of us have the McFred happening. So what's your midfield for this game?
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about the front three and the back four in terms of the engine room, maybe the most important players, especially in a game like Leicester. Look, for me, Matic, Pogba and Bruno. We'll discuss the issues with Pogba and Bruno together, but I'd not sit in a defensive way, but I'd sit Pogba next to Matic and hopefully give we're attacking and on the front foot, and they'll allow Pogba to get forward and Matic sit by himself. That would have to be my middle. But I think McTominay is obviously riding a high. He scored a late, it wasn't a fantastic goal, but he scored a late winner for Scotland, so he's going to be on a high. And in a game like Leicester away from home, where there's going to be plenty of running and it will be a battle in that midfield, maybe it is, maybe Scott McTominay maybe gets the edge over Nemanja Matic. But your thoughts on the trio, if you're going to line up with three, because obviously there is we've agreed that it's going to be a back four. There could be a curveball with a back three, which will change the midfield. But just your thoughts?
For this specific game, I'd be going McTominay, Pogba, Bruno. Just because I think you need the legs in midfield, just with the way Leicester play. I don't want Matic getting exposed. I don't think United will dominate the ball as much as they normally would. Just given the way Leicester play, it's an energetic midfield and it's a good midfield. Even with Tielemans, will keep things ticking along. Is a really class midfielder. If you're not someone who, I guess, puts a great emphasis on midfield play, I think Tielemans is one of the best going around in the Premier League, if not world football. I really rate him highly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my mum is tuned in. I don't know how she knows his name's CR7, but I predict Ronaldo will score 2 goals. I don't know how she knows it's CR7, but fair play, Mum. Hope you're having a good night. And just about wraps it up, Larry. Always good to chat United. And I always say it after every international break. It's been the longest international break, but this one definitely has. But how long to the next one? I think it's actually a while, isn't it? March or something? Which is good.
Yeah, we got a good break now. So, looking forward to it. Look, Rob's got in the comments here, don't like Pogba partnered with Scott. Look, I think it just comes down to the setup, right? I mean,
Paul Scholes did you watch that overlap? Paul Scholes made the point, if he had an ideal midfield, he was saying McTominay next to Pogba.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it's just it's a setup thing for United. This isn't a player issue. We've had this argument about Ronaldo. Ronaldo comes on against Everton, we look worse. So does that mean Ronaldo's a bad player? There's nothing wrong with the players. It's simply how United set up. I don't know where they get the time to do it though, because obviously there's international breaks, there's midweek games. So how much time do they actually get on the pitch to work on the setup? So that's the concern, but. I think Pogba and McTominay could work. I really do.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, you just said I said March, and Rob's just kicked me right in the gut. So November's the next international break. That'll come around in like 2 weeks' time, sort of thing. I thought it was still March, but that's unfortunate. Thanks for that, Rob. But hopefully everyone did enjoy the video and is enjoying or will enjoy their weekend, and hopefully United get 3 points. So if you do, please like the video. That would be great. And if you could share it with any Man United fans that you think would enjoy it, please do. That'll be very much appreciated. And Larry, we'll chat to you Sunday after United win.
Fingers crossed, mate. See you after 3 points.
Cheers, mate. Hope everyone has a good one. And chat to you soon. Cheers.